All right, so today we're going to talk about AI mindset and strategic integration. Um, what does that mean? What are we going to be, discussing that's really going to push us to that level? And first I wanted to, talk about mindset and how do we fix ourselves to be able to receive the information that we're going to, you know, use to change our lives, and then why AI should matter to you, the tools and real estate use cases, using it effectively and safely, and then progressing with it. And then, of course, trust and compliance. These are things that all need to be a consideration whenever you're using AI. So, first of all, mindset is everything. There's two main types of mindset, and I actually got this from reading a book not too long ago. There's two main types of mindsets. There's the growth mindset, and then there's a fixed mindset, or static mindset is also what it's called. A person with a static mindset, um, are we sharing this screen? Yeah, right? You are sharing screen. Okay. Sorry. A person with a fixed mindset believes, abilities, intelligence are fixed traits that they can't improve themselves. They avoid challenges and they that may expose weaknesses. So anything that seems like it may be hard, they may be more apt to just, wait. I'll wait and see. I'll try later, or they may never try at all. They see mistakes as proof of inability. They give up more easily. They take feedback personally, or ignore it altogether, and they may feel threatened by other successes, because they see themselves as inferior. And then the growth mindset, is the complete opposite of that. The abilities can develop through effort and learning. They see challenges and opportunities to grow. They view mistakes as learning experiences. They're persistent through setbacks, and they welcome feedback and coaching, and they're inspired by other successes. They see other people doing well and they want to do well themselves. And so next would be that AI first mindset. So if you've got your growth mindset in place, the next add-on to that is the AI first mindset. These are five questions that you should be asking, and it's not something that you sit down and make a checklist and, write out answer. And no, this is something that takes a millisecond in your brain over time. Once you do enough activities with AI, you see AI as a tool, right? And whenever you have something that needs to be repaired, if you have the tool for that job, it's automatic in your brain that you will use that tool for that job because you know exactly what tool you need. It's not like a mental exercise to figure out what tool you need. You already know you have the tool and you're going to use it. And so these are the things that, you should be considering. Can you do this with AI entirely? Whatever problem you run into or task that you're, looking at doing. Can AI do it entirely? Can it do the first 80%? One of the things that I kept running over whenever I was, going through, I read a few books, I listened to several podcasts about this stuff, and one of the things that kept cropping back up was getting off the blank page. That initial creativity that's required to get started is such a big hurdle for most people. Well, AI can get you that first jump already done in seconds. So, anytime you're doing something that may need some initial creativity, bring AI into it, see what kind of output comes from it. Can AI help make it better? Make a better decision. Maybe you've done something and you feel, oh, this is pretty good. Well, put it into AI. See what AI says about it. See if there's, ask AI questions. Say, hey, if you were a professional marketing developer, take a look at this. Um, this particular ad that I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be putting it in a website as a landing page. And this is what we're going to try to get. We're trying to get more leads. Can you review this and see if there's anything that I can do to improve it? And it'll review it. And then as a senior web developer, it would tell you exactly what you can do to improve it, not only like systematically like the SEO or load times or framework and structure of the ad itself. So there's so many deep things that you may not always consider because you don't always know what you don't know. Whereas AI has a wealth of knowledge at its fingertips. So it can bring that information to you and tell you what you don't already know. So it can make something that you did that may already be good and may already be working. It can make it better. And can AI make this process repeatable? There's a lot of AI automation tools that are available out there right now that can just do it all for you to where you're not having to do anything that you're having to repeat and do over and over and over again. AI has the capability of handling that process for you. And can AI help serve more people without hiring? And so that's another thing like uh, that scares a lot of people right now is AI going to take my job? And we're actually going to talk about that here in a little bit. So all right, so next, why it matters to you. More time, more deals, more income. You get hours back every week. Automate listing write-ups, follow-up emails, marketing research that eat your evenings and weekends. Faster lead response, reply to every inquiry in minutes with personalization, on-brand messages, speed to lead, win listings. So, like, there's follow-up services that are out there that have AI integrations built into it that can provide a unique response through SMS or even email follow-up instantly. Um, and then look like a bigger team. You can handle more because AI is doing some of this other legwork for you. And then the risk is standing still. This is what I was talking about. AI is not going to replace agents, but agents who use AI will replace those who don't. So it's important that you are utilizing this tool to make yourself better. Um, Anybody who's not using AI has a real risk at being left behind by someone who is. All right. I wanted to have a nice little list of, because there's a lot of AI tools that are out there, and there's hundreds more than just this. What I've been messing with, and I haven't even used all of these. I actually put this into AI to see what it suggested. I've used a number of these, especially the top three, ChatGPT, Claude, and Perplexity. Those are all really good tools. And some are better than others. And Gemini is Google's AI, and their tool, it kind of works okay with like their Google Sheets, reviewing data that's already within their ecosystem. But if you're wanting it to build like a slide presentation, it's not good at all. Not right now, anyways. Um, but Claude really is. What's really neat about Claude is that it actually integrates with PowerPoint and it can review and improve uh, slide presentations that you've done. It could even develop and improve from there. So you can build a whole presentation just based on prompts within Claude that's built that it can integrate with PowerPoint. So this slide presentation itself, it was all built by Claude. Now, some of the content, it was from my brain and I put it in here, some prompts to improve it because I developed probably the first like 9 slides of this with things that I wanted to hit, like this slide, for instance. And then I typed into Claude, hey, can you review this slide deck? I'm going to be presenting uh, AI to real estate agents in the state of Texas at my brokerage, and I'm wanting them to have a general understanding about AI and what it can do to improve their business. And It had suggestions, like six more slides, although it kind of built some into it because I think it ended up being like 13 or 14 slides. But um, it also recommended that one of the slides that I had, which was like a timeline about what Sam Altman had talked about, he was like, it's not really on message with what we're doing. I'd recommend you remove it. And so I did. And so like there's different ways to improve what you've already done. And not to mention, it looks so much better than I could have ever made it look. But here's a list of other AI tools that are really handy at what, like, they all try to do at least one or two things really good. Now, ChatGPT, that's from OpenAI. That one's an overall, it does a lot of really good things. It does coding pretty well. It does brainstorming really well. Content generation, the imaging is so. I mean, you can do a lot of really neat things with ChatGPT. And if y'all aren't already using it, I would highly recommend you just open it up and play around with it a little bit. Claude is probably my favorite right now. It's the one I pay for a tool with because it has Claude Code. You have the ability to like vibe code, which is like building, different websites and programs and tools that are in your brain. I even made not a website, a game. I had an idea for a game just laying in bed one day, and so I jotted down all the rules and you know the way the game would progress and the pieces, and then I put it into Claude, and then it spit out a game, a playable online game that I was able to use and play. And the game ended up sucking, but it was still pretty neat that I was able to do that in just like a few minutes time with Claude. And so Perplexity is really cool about fact checking and researching, and especially like on the legal side, if you have questions about, say, you are dealing with an attorney and they send you a whole list of, legalese, contracts, whatever, for you to review. If you put that into Perplexity and say, hey, break this down for me, summarize it. What do I need to know that it's saying in here? And it'll summarize it and put it in layman's terms for you to be able to understand what all is in that document. Um, and then fact checking sources. So maybe you develop something in ChatGPT or Claude, and then you want to check and see if something's already copywritten. You could put it in a Perplexity and have it review and see if there's already a copyright on this particular, content that I'm using. So anyways, I would highly recommend you try these out. GitHub is, if y'all aren't familiar, GitHub is a place, it's like a repository, it's like a storage bank for code, for websites and softwares and applications, and all these different places will store banks of code inside of GitHub. Well, GitHub has its own AI that's called GitHub Copilot, and it is built into where you can develop a website on GitHub, host it on GitHub for free, and get the HTTPS free as well. So I have a guidebook that I built for one of my short-term rentals, and I built it all in GitHub Copilot and using some Claude because I like the way Claude, like the look of it after it's developed. So I built the basic structure of it in GitHub Copilot. I put it into Claude, said, "Hey, dress this up and make it look good." And then I did that, and here I'll show y'all an example of what I. So this is the this right here is the guidebook for my short-term rental out in Gulf Shores. And I built this using AI, just telling them, I had a list that I had made in Google Sheets of what all needed to be in it. I pulled some data from the listing that was in there, and this is what it spit out. I mean, it has rules, it has details, local recommendations, and then it has, I put in this little troubleshooting section for people that maybe having issues. And then inside my short-term rental, I put these little QR codes that people can like hit it with their phone. It'll direct them to this website, right to the troubleshooting section where they can see, oh, okay, this is how I do this. So, anyways, really neat stuff. really, really neat stuff. AI in real estate day to day. So how can this help you, especially like realtors and marketers, people that are marketing themselves? It can help out with drafting compelling listing descriptions. Um, and a lot of you probably already doing this anyways, but it can help fine tune a tone and make something better. Maybe you drafted it, but you can put it into ChatGPT just to see if there's something that maybe you're missing, or how can you improve it? How can you make it more compelling? Um, you can also check and see if there's any fair housing violations in there, any protected classes that are mentioned. You can do comparative market analysis, social media reels, improve the hooks, videos, images. All of these things can be improved with AI, and AI is just getting better. All right. It's learning as it's going. And so some things that it may not be that great at right now, you need to keep testing it, because over time the videos will get better, the images will get better. Um, Email lead follow up. I mean, something that a lot of agents are using is like Follow Up Boss. And there's a number of other, automated CRMs that are out there that have AI tools built into it that you can set up automated follow-ups with it. Um, Neighborhood guides, client Q&A prep. So if you are going into a difficult listing appointment and you think they're going to be, a little unreasonable about their amount, what you can do is put it into Claude and say, "Hey, I have a client. I'm pretty sure they're going to think this house is worth X amount of dollars. This is what my CMA is telling me it's worth. And, can you help me prepare for this meeting? Give me some rebuttals and tips that I can use to be able to convince them to change that price." It can help you prepare for those types of meetings. Objection handling, transaction coordination. You can build checklists and timelines and templates for every deal. It could be independent. Now, you have to be very careful, and we'll talk about it in a little bit, but you don't like drop a signed contract into ChatGPT, because everything that you put in, you've already agreed that you're sharing publicly. So we do not do that. It's not okay to share private information with the public AIs that are out there. But what you can do is, you know, build a checklist in a general sense. Say, I have a single family residence that we're buying. The closing date is this day, and it's a 5 day option period. This is the date it was commence on. Can you provide me a checklist of things that I need to be aware of? And it may even ask you questions. Claude will ask sometimes if it doesn't get enough context based on the information that you put in. It'll ask you some qualifying questions to help get to a place where the output is more profitable for you and helpful. Okay. Next, anatomy of a great prompt. Context is everything. So whenever you sit down and you want to use, ChatGPT or Claude or whatever, and you put in a prompt, what you need to do is help it to understand where you're coming from. Don't just say, "Can you give me a market analysis?" It's going to be like, "What a market analysis for what?" You need to be able to say, "Okay, I'm doing a comparative market analysis for a single family residence in this zip code." Um, and see what it produces. Maybe it asks some more questions like, what size is it? What year was it built? How many bathrooms is it? Get more. It may ask for more information, or it may be able to pull that information that it needs and then fill in the rest. And so, you know, context is just so important. And another neat little trick whenever you're building a prompt is to say, if you're trying to look for advice, say, um, I want you to be a senior marketing analysis professional. Um, I want you to be a top lawyer. Um, you know, give it the context, give it the persona that it needs to be. And so what it does is it narrows the scope of the information that it's going to be using. So if it's going to be a lawyer, then it's going to pull from a specific data set that is just about legal recommendations and documents, right? If you ask a legal question in a general sense, it may pull information from Reddit, it may pull information from other parts of the internet that may not necessarily be accurate. And so a lot of people say, "Oh, it's not accurate, it's not right, it's hallucinating." Well, a lot of times hallucinations and inaccurate results are often because the prompts didn't have the proper context. So if you get a result, if you get an output that is wrong, take a look at your prompt. See if you gave that AI enough context so that it can narrow its scope of data to be able to provide you the proper information. Um, you know, good context rich prompts, sets the length and format. You can do a whole paragraph. You can, ask for multiple things in one prompt if you want. Say, hey, these are things that I need to that need to be considered. One, this, two, this, three, this. And then it can give you responses. And then even if you don't like the response in the context that it did, say, hey, can you make this more understandable for like a seventh grade education? Make this to where it's so easy to understand. Or can you put it in a format that is easily read and understood, and it can really adapt the answers to you and how you want. And then what's really neat about these different AI tools is that they're going to learn who you are and what you like, right? And as long as you have accounts set up with them, not I'm just talking about free accounts too, it'll come back. Like I've been using these and it'll say, okay, and it remembers that I'm a real estate broker. It remembers that I own Spirit Real Estate Group and brokersponsorship.com. And it remembers all these different details, apartment locating, residential sales, and even some commercial. And then it takes that context and it keeps it logged in its knowledge bank about you so that later on, whenever it's answering these questions, it pulls from that in it as well. Um, so you don't always have to give the exact same, the total context of your situation every single time. It will learn you and who you are and where you're coming from. All right. So how to progress with AI? There's different people are going to be watching this. I imagine that, there's going to be, some people have no knowledge of AI, and I have some people that are already doing everything that I've done and then some. And that's great. So what I wanted to do though is have at least the baseline, the no child left behind kind of theory where, anyone who hasn't already started should have at least a basic understanding of how they can begin to progress. Starting with just basic prompting, talking to ChatGPT or Claude, asking questions about your business or, you know, your certain life struggle, or I mean, you could talk about health problems, family problems, all kinds of different things, and it will learn and adapt and provide great output. One thing that I like to do is if I'm going to be on a long call, I'll just put it in the audio, um, like the microphone on active voice is what it's called on Gemini, but some of the others have it called different things. But you can do that while you're driving, and you can just have a conversation with AI and just brainstorm. Just be like, hey, I want to learn a little bit more about digital marketing today, and it'll ask you some questions, and then you can just literally have a conversation, and it'll just dump on you all this information. And I did that many times, and I was able to learn a ton. And then next, document and data analysis. Ask AI to review documents. If you're dealing with investors or doctors or anyone, even in our, day-to-day business, maybe a builder put together a contract and there you have a question that wondering if, something in that is in that contract, you could dump it into AI and ask that question. Now, a reminder, we are not attorneys. We cannot provide legal advice and we cannot review contracts for clients, but we could certainly at least point them in the right direction to get information, right? Speak to an attorney or, you know, review these documents in other forms. So I actually, whenever you have like a doctor's appointment, and they say, hey, you can go in for this scan, and the scan's like next week, but your follow-up appointment isn't for like a month or two. Well, whenever they email you the results from that scan, you can actually put that into AI and say, hey, can you review these results and tell me what it said? And I've done that a couple of times too. And it's really neat because it'll tell me almost verbatim what the doctor tells me a month later whenever I finally get to go back in for my follow-up appointment. Um, Content and asset creation, have AI create papers, contracts, web pages, images, or videos. A lot of the changes that we made to the policies and procedures at the end of last year was generated through AI using Perplexity. I told it what I needed to have and what I needed to cover, and it filled in all the blanks of the things that I didn't know. And it helped me adapt my policies and procedures to cover these new areas of risk that we were dealing with at that time. And so, web pages, images, videos, it can develop all of this stuff in minutes and save you so much time. If the result isn't right, give it more context, iterate it, change it up, try different things. Say, hey, can you give me I don't really like the format of this. Can you give me three different other options to choose from? And it'll give you three other options, and maybe one of those is one that you like. You could tell it to try harder. Or if you're, needing to give it more context, say, I really like this kind of format. Here's a picture of what I like. Can you build one like this? And it'll do that. You can upload an image and be able to have something similarly built that will not mirror, but you want it to be pretty close to what is already there that you do like. And then advanced automation, explore Claude code for software. Can you build, is there some pain point that you're dealing with? And can you build a tool that will do that? You have email coming into you every single day. Most of it's probably spam. There's a lot of email services out there, like, for instance, Google Gmail has Gemini built in. You can actually automate Gemini to be able to review your emails and let you know what's going on, what emails are important. You can also do that with Copilot. You can have it review your emails and important emails that you need to attend to in your Office account. So there's, different softwares that are already built, but at the same time, is there something that maybe you don't know that's out there that you try to develop? So we recently did a uh, referral slash promotional raffle type thing, right? And we put that out there. And so there's services that are out there, but they like cost money. And I really felt like the bar was too high to get people to put entries in. And so I told Tom and I was like, look, let's just get something stood up for now. But what we do need is some type of randomizer wheel similar to what's out there. And it took Tom, I mean, maybe a total of an hour to get it tweaked just right. And so now he can drop a list of names from emails into this input and it generates the randomizer wheel and he just clicks run and it goes around and then he'll select it and he'll do a winner and it does this confetti thing. And he was able to do that with just, I think it was either Claude Code or ChatGPT. I'm not sure which one he used primarily, but um, he did that, in a pretty short time period. He was able to develop that software just himself using a coding software that's backed by AI. There are AI integrated CRMs like Follow Up Boss and others that are out there. Canva has AI built into it for being able to do, social media automation as well as developing and growing those. Now, the quality of Canva's AI right now is not great. There are other AIs that do better image creation and, content building than Canva's AI. But I imagine, given that that's their thing, they're eventually going to get better at it. So just keep going back to it and trying it out if y'all have a Canva account. AI powered lead generation tools. So if you have a number of leads coming in, you can have AI respond and make these leads hotter. Work them down the funnel to a place. If you have more leads than you can handle, you can have AI start those initial conversations and bring it to a place to where they're ready to talk to someone. And that could be where you enter in the process and you already know, okay, this is all the data that AI has been able to gather for me, and this client is super hot and ready to go. Um, and then AI agents, there is a lot of agentic AI that's been, developed over the last year or so. And these are things that you need to be aware of because there's so much that's being developed. And before long, the tools that you need are going to be there and available and affordable by multiple sources. So just be open and aware of what's out there so that you can capitalize on it when it comes out. All right. So is AI output trustworthy? Yeah. Like I said, sometimes it'll hallucinate. Sometimes you'll get, stuff that's not right. A lot of times it's because the prompting what didn't have enough context, but you know, their AI is pulling from data usually that's pretty trustworthy. So I just say this, trust but verify. It can hallucinate, it can be incorrect. So fact check it. Anytime you are putting together some type of, content, drop it in another AI like Perplexity and say, hey, is there any infactual statements in this? Are there any fair housing violations? Are there any copyright issues that I need to be aware of in this? And it can tell you, it can let you know, hey, this particular phrase right here does hit on the familial status that is protected by fair housing. You need to remove this. And this section talks about, size, but there's multiple sources that say that the size could be different numbers. So maybe you put a range instead. So, um, there's different things that you can do to, check and verify that what is being put out there, especially before you put it out there to be consumer facing, because at the end of the day, it's your name that's attached to it. You're the one who's responsible for it. So make sure, you're saving all this time on developing it. Spend a little bit more time checking it, verifying, and making sure it's good content. Um, let's see, cross-check factual claims, statistics, attributed quotes. AI operates on training data, not live information. And so, especially if you're going to be using certain statistics and numbers, if there's a place for it, add a disclaimer. Say this information has been fact checked and is deemed reliable but not guaranteed. Just adding that little disclaimer will help to where anyone who's looking for a way to sue somebody or take advantage of you or the company, having that disclaimer is going to help protect you and the company. Copyright IP risk, we talked about using a second AI to screen for copyright issues before, especially on images that you have doing that. If you're generating your own images, it can still pull from other images that are out there. So you want to make sure that whatever image generation has at least some of your own personal input in it so that it's unique. And then you can still put it into a deep research AI like Perplexity and find out if there's any copyrights, issues with that particular image that you generated. Um, Input quality drives output quality. So again, Context is everything. Be specific as you can. Like before, whenever, as a real estate agent, I remember, whenever you're running searches, you wanted to be vague and general so that you can get outputs, because the more specific you were, the less results that you got. Well, that still is true here, because you're wanting one result, but you're wanting that one result to be right. So you want to give it as many specifics as you can so that the output is more specific and individual, right? It's more correct. Um, all right. Fair housing, watch your words, perfect for families, safe neighborhood, walkable to churches, all fair housing violations. Um, Never describe the ideal buyer, ideal, situation, tenant, any of that stuff, especially by race, religion, familial status, disability, national origin. All the ad rules still apply. And at the end of the day, you and I are accountable. We're liable for what gets published. So do take the time to fact check and double check everything. And if you ever have a question about a particular ad, text us or email us, send it to us. Say, hey, we just put this up. Can you take a look at it? Make sure there's no violations or issues with it. And we're always happy to review it, seeing as how at the end of the day, we can be held responsible for it as well. All right, protecting client data. What's safe to share with AI and what's never? So obviously, Social Security, tax ID numbers, bank mortgage financial statements, signed contracts with personal details, client names, information. Don't ever screenshot the client, the CRM, and put it in there with their client information in there. Anything covered by an NDA, if you've signed an NDA with a brokerage before, don't put anything in there. And then passwords, account logins, that kind of stuff. Anything that's shared with it, it stores, it keeps it. So don't put it out there. What is safe is public listing details, photos, general market and neighborhood data, draft, general details overall are pretty safe to put in there to get general output. Um, your own notes, ideas, and questions, those are all fine. If you're trying to get, some better output on a slide deck or a, a paper that you're trying to do or ad copy or something, adding your own notes of, hey, I really want it to have, talk about this and this and this, and these are the ideas that I had for it. It's good with that information because it's from your own brain. It's safe to use. And just as long as it doesn't have any personal information, then you should be okay. Publicly available public property records obviously is good because it's already in it usually. Okay. First 30 days, simple plan to go through from curious to capable. Pick one tool, just start playing around with it, build a habit, bring AI into your daily routine, give it context about your deals, your business, what you're doing on a regular basis. And that way you can brainstorm with it and learn from it. Go deeper, upload documents, analysis, create social and marketing content, start saving prompts that work. If it gives out, how to do something, you can always learn how to do something using AI versus, Google. As a matter of fact, if you put it into Google, usually it's a Gemini response, if you're asking how to do something. But you can even go a step further and say, can you show me, can you tell me step by step how to fill in the blank? And it'll do step one, click on this, step two, click on this, step three, drop down, select this, and it will help you be able to do whatever task you're trying to do. And then make it routine. It should be your go-to for everything. And then you'll start to adapt using different tools for different situations. But at this point, last year challenged our team to really start using AI, and we've had a few follow-up meetings, and they are all using it on a daily basis for most activities. AI is involved in most of what they're doing. So, if you aren't already there, start working towards it. All right, so start now, get familiar, then grow with it. Stay in tune for new trends and releases. The best time to start was yesterday, seeing as how it really got legs back in 2022. Second best time's today. So if you aren't already using AI, you're very